could see that it peaks
And
during
if
the
our
summer.
roof ever needed.
And then, or
Oh, that's
spring and
right,
fall.
yeah.
But this.
Good
this-
morning,
this-
everyone. It is 10:45 on January 17th, Friday. This is the jobs meeting for the Kane County organization. I'm Deborah Allen, co-chair. Our other co-chair is enjoying sunny climes on a cruise ship, bless her heart. I will call the meeting to order. Had to wait for the little extra meeting to break up, but we're in good shape now. And could we call the roll?
Bates. Doherty.
Doherty here.
Hennessis.
Hennessis here.
Strathman.
Strathman here.
And Young has left. Allen.
Allen present. And we have Mr. Doherty asking to attend remotely. Anyone have any objection to that? Happy New Year, Mr. Doherty, and welcome.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes by consent from November 15th, 2024
Bates would ask for approval.
of the
Minutes, yes.
of consent for the minutes. Anyone have any objection? Okay, we will move forward. I'm not aware of public comment. Is there any public comment online or anything? Okay. Then we will move forward to Jobs Committee priorities, and we have a resolution approving to discuss and possibly approve a contract extension with GMCI for the continued marketing of our fabulous Fox National Water Trail. May I turn that over?
Sure. Good morning, Mark Van Kerkhoff, Director of Development and Community Services. For the new board members, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of GMCI and our relationship with them. Back in 2022, we were on our way to having the fabulous Fox Water Trail designated as a national water trail with the National Park Service. And we began taking steps to be able to capitalize that, especially from an economic development standpoint, since we are in what we call the sweet spot of the entire water trail in terms of economic development potential due to proximity to Chicago and the assets we already have along the fabulous Fox Water Trail as it goes through Kane County. So we went through an RFQ process to select someone to help us with that marketing and branding, and GMCI was selected. She was then retained to do a branding study. We convened a workshop with all of our partners up and down the river. We had a very creative morning with ideas about strengths and weaknesses, where people, were aware of the water trail, what things would be, best for marketing. And based on that, she put together a branding and marketing strategy. Once we had that in place, we were able to apply for a DCEO tourism and travel grant, and GMCI basically wrote that application for us based on the branding study and the recommendations for doing marketing. We received a grant of $100,000, which we used last year. We had a matching amount of $100,000 that we paid for out of our Economic Development Fund 400. So last year we were able to use that grant and do a very broad and large marketing effort using GMCI. So her current contract in term was reflected in the not to exceed $250,000, which reflected the money to spend on that grant. And then we had some additional funds. She's done some great work helping us with marketing pieces we needed for our farmland and local foods program, as well as our new economic development corporation. She did some pieces to help us with that. So this morning we are at the point where we are close to the end of her contract term, and we are very close to the end of her cap that initial contract asked for. Moving ahead into next year, we have plans to continue the momentum with some of the marketing things that she's developed, website for the National Water Trail, social media, some of the things that we decided were the most effective for strategically placing ads and those kinds of things. And then we're also looking at, for this year, focusing a little bit more on local awareness. One of the things we realized after doing all this year is that there's still a lot of people who don't realize that the Fox River is now part of a national water trail. So we're wanting to do some additional, more internal local outreach to the chambers of commerce and those kind of folks who could really capitalize and benefit from the increased visitors that will be drawing in. And then in addition to that, with other grant funds from ARPA, we're going to be constructing 5 new launch sites that are going to be accessible with board safe products. So we also want to help our local communities, be aware that those new launch sites are coming and how they might prepare for that as well. So we have continued need for our continue our contract with GMCI. We're recommending that it be extended for another year, as well as the not to exceed amount be increased by another $150,000. So we can do that, as well as be, ready to apply for other funding sources to help with the marketing. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Did we need a motion?
Yes.
Bates moves.
Tennis
Oh,
is second.
seconds.
Oh, go ahead.
Ms. Bates, go right ahead.
My nose in. Bates moves. Strathman seconds.
Good. All right. Any questions? Ms. Bates?
So, we used a lot of ARPA money for this. Is there any ARPA money left over for this to pay for it, or how's that gonna work?
Sure. So that's a good question. So actually for the tourism and travel grant that we received, we spent an overall of $200,000, using $100,000 of the state money. And we actually matched that with our economic development fund 400, because the other ARPA funds were actually for the infrastructure.
What is the match for that with the Economic Development Fund?
$100,000. So we spent that, all that grant's been completed, and we're still waiting for our reimbursement funds from the grant, or did we get that from the state yet? Oh, we have, the state already paid us back for our reimbursement, so.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Ready to? Yes, Ms. Bates, of course.
Did we ever get any porta potties?
Not with a marketing grant, no.
I thought I might be asking that at the wrong time, but not the wrong place. Okay. I'm on a crusade, I want a plaque, a memorial, or in honor of Mavis Bates porta potty at some of these.
Maybe that should be under composting.
Okay. All right.
As long as they aren't too close to the river, so
Yeah.
that they're
That's right. Okay.
aesthetics.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Genesis,
Genesis, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Allen.
Alan and I. Thank you, folks. Any more comments that you care to make on that, or shall we move on?
We can move on.
That's fine. Could we move on to the staff updates having to do with our economic development going forward?
Sure, yeah. So I'll let John Gruling's here with us, our Economic Development Advisor. He'll give a few comments about the progress of the launching and startup for the new Kane County Economic Development Corporation. I'll just make a few comments on our participation in the regional economic development effort that's through called the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, or GCEP. We are now just starting our 3rd year of that agreement with the 7 counties and the city of Chicago. With that, along with the regular activities that we're doing in terms of working together on regional initiatives and trying to attract different, site selections and things to the region. CMAP is assisting World Business Chicago and the organization on what they're calling GCEP 2.0, which would be, following this 3rd year, what it looks like moving forward. So we'll keep you posted as that continues to move along. I will say that John and Chris have done the yeoman's work in 2024 of capitalizing on any leads that we get from GCEP or from Intersect Illinois in terms of connecting resources and our communities to some of these site selection opportunities. So I'm very grateful to John for that, and also Chris, who does a lot of legwork in data and follow up. So with that, that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Ms. Bates?
But do we know if we've gotten any, if we closed any deals through GSEP yet?
I'll defer that to John. It's not an easy black and white question and answer, but it's definitely helped. So
Okay, it's
So-
not a gotcha, it's just a,
No. Actually, there is one, Perla Foods, which is a Polish food company. They were looking for a US location for food processing. Their product is what do you call them? Sort of hors d'oeuvres, stuffed olives, stuffed peppers, made foodstuffs for, people. But it's a cold storage type of a food product. And that lead partially came from GSAP. And
they're here now? They're coming?
they've bought a building in North Aurora.
Okay,
They're outfitting it right now for production. In the meantime, they've leased part of a building in Bartlett. But eventually they'll probably have around 200 employees.
okay,
Don't have a total capital investment yet, but it's pretty substantial.
good.
And yeah, so it's been a good walk with them to get that done. We also have a handful of other projects that are sort of in various stages of hopefully some sort of an announcement. But we'll continue to work that. We're actually getting more significant activity from the statewide economic development organization called Intersect Illinois. That's the governor's public-private economic development organization. If most of you have probably heard of Intersect Illinois, they do a lot of national and international marketing. They've been staffing up here recently. They're really turning into quite a sophisticated economic development organization for the state of Illinois. And that's going to be another reason for our economic development corporation to exist, because we will have a straight line partnership with them when it comes to handling prospects that are looking for Illinois locations.
and then I'll also add another a benefit. This past year, you may have heard some of the news, but World Business Chicago and the Chicagoland area was able to attract, I just hit on the tip of my tongue, Psi Quantum.
Oh, you're right.
Yes, Psi Quantum, a international quantum computing company. There was I think, if not national, international site selection process, which is going to be in the old steel mills on the south side.
Yeah.
So have that in the region. There's quite a quantum hub, could say, in the Chicagoland region. And Fermilab, of course, is an important part of that. They have the quantum garage. They have a lot of quantum computing capabilities along with Argonne and some of the universities. So that's another, big win for the region and a big win for King County and DuPage as we share Fermilab, because as Fermilab's healthy, they pour a ton of money into the local economy.
Good.
And they're growing, and so that's all good.
Yeah, there was a reception last night sponsored by GSEP called Elevate Chicago, something like that. Anyway, I couldn't figure out why is Elevate in the room of this? Well, it turns out it was on the 95th floor of the John Hancock building. But it was a limited engagement. You invite invitation only, 50 participants. And the good news is for us economic developers, most of the people there were from private enterprises, private companies that are either close to a decision about moving into the Chicagoland area or taking a first look at it. And I met some very interesting companies. Again, a lot of international companies, which I think is very strong for us because of our location, access to 24/7 aviation services at O'Hare. A lot of reasons for international companies to be looking at the Chicago area. And I haven't told Mark or Chris about this, but I have a new food processing lead from that meeting last night. And I have to keep my lips sealed. I can't talk too much about it. But it's another benefit of the GSEP relationship. They paid for it. You know, obviously we pitch in and our annual dues, but this is not a insignificant event to put on. And it was really first class.
Well, thank you for going to the trouble to go downtown on a
Yeah, it
cold
was,
night.
right.
I don't know how closely you parked, but I'll bet you had to walk some of it.
I actually parked in the Hancock parking garage.
Okay.
No, it was very easy. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if you touched on this for our newer people, but this is an organization that can do a database and has the staff to do the research to try and identify what we particularly have to offer, and then try and match us up with the companies that might want to come, so that if somebody is if somebody wants to have a college educated workforce, or wants to have its employees have access to rural as well as urban. If somebody wants a big box near, I'm thinking pickleball now. If somebody wants a big box store to put indoor pickleball in, but they'd like to be near an older community, can we plug somebody in next to Del Webb? And so this organization is able to inventory assets all over the region, and then try and match the assets to what a company is looking for. And that just sounded like a fascinating idea if you've got the people to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually another key part of the relationship that we benefit from. Is World Business Chicago has a very robust research team, and they are able to be an asset. And in a couple of ways that helps Kane County. One is we staff up the new Economic Development Corporation. The staffing doesn't need to include a robust research team because we have access through that relationship. And then more directly, more recently, when Madam Chairman was working with the powers to be downstate to get funding to make sure that we could eliminate the toll on the new Long Meadow Parkway Bridge, we needed some economic justification, and it was a quick contact with the World Business Chicago research team, and they were able to pull numbers that we couldn't get because, as you know, the Long Meadow Parkway Bridge is up in the northeast corner of the county, and the work shed, business shed, in a 10, 20-mile radius encompasses 4 different counties. So they were able to pull that data to show how many minority and women-owned businesses, how many small businesses existed, along with the data to say, this is a good thing for, the region, not just for Kane County to eliminate the toll. And that was part of the reason for the success. So, that's a real, tangible outcome of that relationship.
Cool.
I do have a question, because I wasn't familiar with that until I started reading, the information here. That's like 7 counties that are part of this, the Chicagoland area, 7 counties.
Yeah, so it's basically the 7 counties that are in CMAP, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. They were a big part of helping with the planning for the launch on it. It was an initiative started by Chairman Preckwinkle about 10, 12 years ago to say we really need to be working together as a region, and it's coalesced.
Thank you.
Ms. Bates, of course,
Third
you
question.
needn't be shot.
When we had the chance, Ms. Strathman and Anita Lewis and I had the chance to go to the, what did we go to? The Economic Development
Conference.
Conference.
The Illinois Association of Economic Developers.
Yes, that's where we
that
went,
was
and it was wonderful. I may not remember the name, but I learned a lot. One of the things about the site, it seems like the site selection is a very important part of what they do. I'm hoping that when we do site selection, it's going to be on already developed land. A lot of the pictures we saw were like new land, a cornfield or something like that. can we emphasize site selection in, in the cities, in steel, using a steel plant or something like that? Are we emphasizing that in our site selection? It sounds like we're using some building that's here already.
So that's a very good question. As you know, a lot of the decision-making that's made around these locations for businesses happens at the municipal level. And oftentimes they have in their community plan or economic development plan, locations identified for development and redevelopment. Oftentimes they start with, let's look at downtown. How do we revitalize downtown?
Yeah.
What are the things we need to do? And many of our Kane County communities have some very good strategic downtown plans, as you know. The next step is to look at industrial facilities, again, that may exist. Maybe they're vacant. Maybe they need to be torn down and reconstructed. Maybe it's a brownfield. It's got some environmental remediation that needs to be done. And typically those are going to be very usable sites. They may be a little more expensive. But, this aspect of greenfield development, for good or for bad, when you're on the edge of the urban fringe, so to speak, like we are, of a major metropolitan area, many of these projects that start looking at Chicago Metro are going to be looking out into the suburbs for vacant sites. Now, the best of both worlds is if the community has identified maybe sites for development and they put requirements on those sites before development can occur. There has to be adequate transportation access. The utilities have to be available and not just promised. In many cases, municipalities make sure the investments are already made. But at the same time, it's going to be difficult for the county to kind of say, well, we want to put as many deals as we can in existing development zones because some of the best opportunities may be some of these vacant sites, especially along the interstate corridors. I mean, that typically is where most of those are going to be. We're not going to be looking at Burlington sites, or something like that. But for the most part, we have to recognize what these companies are looking for. And many times it's going to be, close to an urban area, but available land where they can do their development. Probably not the answer you wanted, but that's kind of the reality.
Thank you.
Anything more that you want to?
I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on the Kane County Economic Development Corporation.
All right.
Since we last met, the organization has had their first board meeting. And they are in the process right now of creating their bylaws to basically their rules of engagement, talking about what does the organization look like? How do you become a member or an investor? How do board members get elected? What are the responsibilities of the board? And the very sort of chopping wood, carrying water elements of an organizational, creation, if you will. And we've got our second meeting set for next week. And if we can get the bylaws adopted, we can start nominating and voting more board members to the organization. And then the next big step for the organization will be to file with the IRS to receive the tax exempt status under the 501c6 regulation. And that will take some time, but we have to have the bylaws in place before we can do that. Hopefully we can get that done in the next 5 to 6 months. The good news about that is we can operate as a tax exempt organization because the federal designation has a look back provision, so that if we spend money and we give people tax write-offs, et cetera, without the official IRS standing, we've got 3 years to accomplish that in order to take credit for everything that's happened in that initial 3 years. It won't take 3 years. It probably will take about 6 months. The other things that we're doing, we're starting to look at locations for an office. We're talking to CPA firms. We're talking to marketing and promotion firms. So all of these things that will go into the, the basic operation of the corporation, so that 6 months from now, we'll actually start looking like a real EDC. So it's been very, pretty exciting, actually.
So you're dotting i's and crossing t's.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, have to do that.
Madam Chair, we can't hear you.
Of course, Ms. Strassman.
No, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I just said something innocuous like crossing t's and dotting i's.
Right, thank you.
Can I ask, we're doing the 501c6 and I have a neighborhood group that was a 501c3 until we took the profits from a couple of our fundraisers and turned it into fixing up the worst property on the block. And one that no investor was willing to go after. And then we turned that into a livable home on a block near other neighbors and sold it to a lovely couple. And I think we made like $1,500 or something. And that changed us from being the C3 to having a different designation because we had just made money.
Right.
By selling a property.
Right.
So what, does the C6 have some overtones that you can share with us?
C6 is basically a business association
Okay.
in the eyes of the Internal Revenue Service. Most chambers of commerce are a C6. And many economic development organizations are a C6. The benefit is, it's not the same as a C3, which is a charitable organization. So contributions to a C3 are fully tax deductible. If we get business investments, which we will, to the C6, it qualifies as a business expense, but it is not considered a charitable
Gotcha,
corporation.
sure.
And one of the reasons we want the C6 is because of the very fact you mentioned. There will be years where we will have money coming in attributed to an activity that wouldn't be approved under a C3, and we don't want to do that. The other thing is that you're pretty much prohibited from doing influencing public policy, lobbying, if you will, as a C3, and you can do that as a C6 if you so choose. So it
Absolutely.
gives us more flexibility as a business organization.
Any questions from the committee? Yes, Mr. Pennis.
Really excited about this, obviously. I think this is something that's very necessary, making sure that we find alternative revenue sources. When is your next meeting? And is the public invited to these? I mean, can the board member attend your next meeting next week?
Good question. In fact, that'll be an item of discussion at our meeting next week. Technically, we only have 3 board members right now. They were the 3 that appear on the articles of incorporation. And then we'll be discussing about the openness of the board meetings. But I anticipate that board meetings, yes, will be open to elected officials, people that may want to attend. It's not going to be the most exciting thing. Now, there will be committees of the organization where members or investors have an opportunity to participate. And the only committee that will probably be a closed committee is the executive committee. That's a good question.
And I will add that per the agreement with the county board, the Madam Chairman and the Chair of the Jobs Committee, and in this case, Anita Lewis, are automatically board members.
Yep.
So if you have any questions, you can ask them. You can also touch base with either John or I. But
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Bates.
Who are the people who are on the board right now and how are they chosen?
They were chosen through conversations with Madam Chairman and myself.
Who are they?
Steve Pitzik, Austin Dempsey, and who am I missing? Oh, Sean McCarthy. Sean is with Comcast. Steve is a farmer, Western King County, and Austin is a developer out of Batavia.
Are any of them women?
There will be soon. Hopefully after Tuesday's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Madam Chairman's on
Other-
the board.
And Anita.
She's a woman.
And other minorities.
Good question. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gray.
Quick question. I'm not on the committee, but appreciate the update. Got some very good information from Gary Vanek last night. So super guy. You're very fortunate with that. But to clarify, Mr. Pennis's question, so I would assume next week's meeting is not open to the public?
No.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you.
They'll be glad to give you a report if you'd like to answer.
Good stuff.
Ask any questions.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Bates?
So we funded the, this organization, I think through ARPA money to get started. Will it be self-funded or will we continue funding the organization?
A good question. The plan is.
You like all my questions. That's why I like
No,
you.
I think you asked very good questions. You probably were a very good student, I take it. So the goal, of course, is to have outside support, financial support, primarily from the
From enterprises?
private sector.
Okay,
And over a period of time, we'd like to see the balance being more private dollars than public, something around 60% private, 40% public. We want the public sector to continue to be engaged, both financially, but also actively with the organization. But, you know, the initial funding, which we're thankful for coming from the ARPA program, really helps us get a leg up to move this thing forward.
okay, thanks.
Okay.
Mhm.
Shall we move on?
We kind of, I need to backtrack a little bit, though. I asked, Julia Tavong is one of our planning staff, also heads up our historic preservation program, but she also knows how to administer grants. So I did ask her to stay because she was our primary administrator on that tourism and travel grant, as well as the other DCO grant we have that's helping with the infrastructure project. And wanted to recognize her good work on all of that, aside from being here to answer questions that I had like she did. But I just wanted to make sure you saw her face and recognize her really outstanding work this past year on these grants.
Thank you.
And how many years have you been helping us out?
Since 2001. Yeah, since 2001.
So that's a year before I got elected. So. And,
Like that.
and with her young husband was, I had a house in my district. So how cool was that to knock on a door and see her and say, what are you doing here? As they had their family and as he took another job, they moved south. So I don't have them anymore, but nonetheless, once a neighbor, always a neighbor.
Absolutely.
Okay, then, I'm going to guess that somewhere online is Mr. Scott Berger. Scott, are you there?
I am, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Good morning. Can we have a report on our Office of Community Reinvestment, Workforce Development Division?
Yes, happy to provide that.
Thank you.
We have a very brief report for you. Included in your packet is our accounts payable report, which we normally provide you every month. Any questions?
Any questions for Scott?
Nope.
We have what, about $20 million that we spend on trying to help people get reemployed or re-educated so that they can be employed. We have liaisons with community colleges and training schools all over the area. Am I hitting some of the high points, Scott?
That's right. Yes. Thank you.
So while we worry about getting people into housing they can afford, one of the things we need to do is make sure that they're employed so they have an income stream so that they can go find housing. And Scott oversees this in 3 counties. Am I correct, Scott?
That's right.
Kane DeKalb
And Kendall,
and Kendall. Good.
correct.
Okay. Any questions for Scott before we wish him a happy new year and a great next year? Okay. Thank you, sir, for being online for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Is there new business for the committee to consider? I left all of my newspaper clippings at home, so I'll bring them next time. May I have a motion for unanimous consent to put the reports on file?
Bates would move.
Ms. Bates moves. Is there any objection? Okay. Good. And I don't, do we have a need for a closed session?
Yep. Yes, closed session, yes.
All right. And may I have
Go into closed session, to discuss release of previous
session.
months
closed
of,
session minutes. Okay. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
I was
That's
trying,
That's what Gary just gave you.
Oh, thank you, Gary. Okay, do we have a second?
Strathman was
Ms.
second.
Strathman seconds. Can we call the roll for having a closed session?
Bates,
Yes.
Doherty,
yes.
Hennessis,
Genesis, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Allen.
On aye. Okay, we'll need a couple of minutes to do that.
All right, everybody online that's joining us in the closed session, please accept your invites. If you are in the room and also on your computer, I need you to also join the closed session.
For the life of me, I don't remember our having closed session.
Take it you're leaving. Yes,
I've only done about 4 of them.
so much fun. He's
No, that's
leaving
fine.
us. So what are you doing for your birthday?
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Feels like a little recursive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So executive session. Yeah. Those minutes, those minutes.
All right, you are in open session.
All right, we are back. May I have, sorry. I have to kind of dance around here. May I have roll call for coming back into open session?
Bates,
Here,
Doherty,
Doherty here.
Genesis,
Dennis is here.
Strathman,
Allen present. May I have a motion to accept the state's attorney's Exhibit A regarding our closed session minutes on this date, January 17th, 2025. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Mr. Pennis makes a motion. May I have a second? Ms. Bates makes a second. May we have a roll call?
Bates,
yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Genesis,
Dennis is yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Allen.
Allen, aye. Thank you, folks. That was nice and smooth, and thank you to our state's attorney for bringing it to us. Any additional comments for the good of the cause? May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, and a second.
Wait seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
To follow up on Ms. Strathman's suggestion that we vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam
folks,
Chair.
for attending. Thank you for making quorum. Thank you, Mr. Doherty.